Hey, everybody, it's Christian Buckley doing another MVP Buzz Chat, and I'm talking today with Sonu. Hello.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm doing well. And why don't you introduce yourself for folks that don't know you? Who are you? Where are you? And what do you do?
Awesome. Yeah. So my name is Sonu. I am currently located in Canada, Toronto. I'm a front-end architect, mostly working with JavaScript frameworks like Angular. I am an MVP in the developer technologies category, and I'm also a Google developer expert in Angular.
Very cool. I know that we were just talking briefly about, occasionally we'll run into MVPs that are experts in other spaces. In fact, I've got a good friend of mine that was a long time IBM champion for more than a decade, and then moved over into the Microsoft space. So ultimately, IBM, we won. So, well, very cool. And so why don't you tell us about your journey to becoming an MVP? Like, what was the process like? How did you hear about the program? What were your contribution types?
Yeah. Let me go a bit back, say about a decade. So, or actually more than a decade, right? So this is actually the second, not really the second time. This is the eighth time I became an MVP. Okay. Oh. So the first time I became an MVP was in 2005 for my contributions to the .NET community.
Okay.
So I used to have a website called .NET Slackers that was collecting news from all the different sources and compiling them and pushing out news or categorizing them as tags and things as such became popular back then, right? So at that time I became an MVP for ASP.NET. Besides the website, I was also writing blog posts, doing videos, things like that. My website generated over 500,000 views per month.
Wow!
So it grew very quickly, and then I had a lot of content on it written by really known authors, and they would write mostly about .NET.
Yep.
So that's where my original story started. So I did receive the MVP award from 2005 until 2011 every year. And then I kind of took a break and concentrated on my work, family, and things like that. So I was no longer an MVP. A few years later, I got an email from Microsoft saying that since I was an MVP, I'm now part of the R MVP, which is the retired MVP.
Right.
And I did not like that. That did not sit well. So I'm like, okay, we got to get back into the game. So coming into 2024, I started contributing a lot. Actually, I started contributing in 2020, but it wasn't that active. And then from 20 to 24, it gradually increased. And then somebody nominated me for the developer technology. And yeah, here I am,
Well, being, in and then out and then in the program. And I know that I've got some good friends that kind of similar things. They had job changes and life changes. And they're said, it's not really a priority to kind of keep up and do those things. And they say that they really miss the community, the camaraderie, like that aspect of it. But life changes. There's nothing wrong with that,
No, I think, I think it's totally fine to take a break. Right?
Yeah.
And take a break, come back stronger. What I really loved is that, when I came back, the community was there.
Yeah.
Right. They loved it. They were very welcoming. Right. And it was awesome. Like everybody was very supportive, like, contributing again, building open source and creating pull requests for, whatever you are doing or writing documentation or articles. I think the possibilities now are endless, right? Like back in the time, talking about 2005, there weren't that many people doing YouTube or like videos and such things, right? Yeah. I think it had just started. I remember, like I said, tags, like tagging things had just started. Like there were sites like Delicious, or Dig, I think dig.com or something. I don't remember it,
I
but
remember dig.com, but not what it was. But yeah.
yeah, there's sites like that that introduced this new concept that allowed you to essentially contribute, right? But there weren't that many, like Twitter didn't exist.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it
LinkedIn
was
was
only
there.
like 2003 to 2005 is where you had like my blog is 21 years old. I
Yeah,
started on TypePad, and so you think of all these like now we have Medium, and of course there's some people
yeah,
that only blog, like they write they post out to LinkedIn, or and they don't have a personal domain, but like Medium is a great platform for that
yeah,
has a built-in audience and things like that. There weren't there was blogger.com and TypePad and other sites like that. But then to your point, like with the site that you did, you started to see the aggregator sites that
yeah.
would kind of pull all of that news and information and then become a hub for that, which essentially it's like having a digital magazine.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was pretty much like a Google like indexed database of anything really important related to .NET. And I built in my database, I built like specific algorithms to scan the content and categorize it, right? And then put a score on it. And then once I had that in place, I could ask my readers to subscribe to certain categories, and they would get notified about those. So that was really cool back then.
Yeah. Well, and there's always the benefit of being the owner of the hub, especially if you start wanting to do like affiliate marketing,
Yeah,
sell ad space. If you are building out products and things. Yeah, it was actually like that's how my first startup. We started by writing scripts and tools, and then we ended up building an aggregated site, and it became the largest download site of free scripts and tools for this, again, other technology platform, non-Microsoft space.
yeah. That is pretty cool. I mean, yeah, I ran my own advertisement software, right? So I started with advertising, and when I saw that the site was generating money, I started to give back to the community and asking like big name authors to write articles for me and get paid in return, right?
Yeah.
So it was great, that I was making money. I mean, the website was making money, and I could give back great content to the community. So that helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, it's the same. Like, it just made me think of like my days in the band. It's kind of the same thing. You start to paying gigs and buy better equipment and do
Yeah.
more things. And we started, I was in a band and we started playing this is a long time. This is 30 plus years ago that we used to start playing more and more festivals and
Yeah.
then just, you know, buy swag to give out to the crowds and kind of give back. But so community activities, what is, like, you're very involved with your local user group? Are you doing stuff like a lot of other speaking around the world, or kind of what's
Yeah, I
your
do.
plug?
So I actually do quite a few things. So I write articles on dev.to or Medium, whatever works. Or sometimes I just cross post. Then I do a monthly Angular podcast, right? So once a month we interview high profile Angular developers that have a really deep knowledge about the framework, and make sure that we cover like advanced topics that are not covered somewhere else. So we try to give them like unique content. So there's that, and for that, most of the time we have interviewed most of the Google team, right? And that works out pretty well for us. Then I do a meetup, the Angular Toronto meetup, and that we also host virtually because it's very difficult to find a place anywhere right now. So we do that virtually, and we also do that once per month. And we actually ask the audience what they're interested in, right? So we put up a vote at the end of every meetup and ask them what they're interested in. And we try to find a speaker for that for our next session. And keep in mind, all of this is mostly Angular related. So Angular, web framework, JavaScript, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so these are the, I guess, three streams that I do mostly. Besides that, maybe not fully community related. I'm not sure, but I've written a book on Angular and AI, and I'm writing another book with Apress on JavaScript. So I'm very excited about that. It's my second book. Yeah, and hopefully it's going to come out in March.
Very exciting. Well, it's like I always say about books, it's the most amount of work you can do for the least amount of pay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it's great having that as a resource to go and do other things. Because like I tell people, so I participated in 6 books now. The first one, I think financially, I did the best on, because we sold every copy that we had. It got me consulting gigs. I'd go in and do trainings, do classes for like paid trainings, and I just built the book into the cost. So I would tack $20 on top of that, and but did really well. All I cared about at the end, or I should say my wife cared about, is that the boxes of books in the garage were empty as they all got shipped out. They all got used or sold. So that was great. But yeah, having that as a marketing tool is fantastic.
That's all what I think about it as well, right? So it's not more about the money; it's about making sure that I can create connections with it, right? I can build up my network. I'm even willing to give it away for free in universities or anywhere where people can learn from it, because at the end, that's all that matters for me. I mean, how much can you really make from a book, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing. I think people that haven't been in it just think, hey, I'm going to go. I've been approached by a publisher, going to write this book. It's like, look, you might get an advance of, $2,000-$3,000 or something. If you got co-authors and you're splitting up that money, it's not a ton of money.
Right.
And I heard like somebody that was a very successful technical author. They got paid like 10 grand up front, but then that comes out of the sales afterwards. The publisher is betting on it selling more than that and then recouping that cash, and then you won't see another dime until over that that few $1,000s got purchased, your portion of that. At least now with the the on-demand side of things, like you go write the book, create the content, and if you've got the marketing vehicles, if you've got the network and self-promote that, you'll make a little bit more money on it. But then again, if you're not good at the marketing, no one's going to ever know that you wrote it. So
I agree 100%. I think having a really good publisher, in that area really helps you, right? Like, so somebody like Apress or O'Reilly or Manning or whoever, like one of those big companies that can help you with that.
Yep.
That is the key there, right? I mean, self-publication works as well, but like you said, you're gonna have to do a lot of marketing yourself to make sure that the world knows about your work, right?
Yep. Well, that's always the case. It's that people don't understand too. I mean, I think about as a parallel, like movies. Well, it cost $200 million to make that movie. It's, but it probably cost $200 million in marketing, and it only made $300 million total sales. They lost $100 million. Yeah. I think people are becoming aware of that. Similar with the book. There's that overhead cost and getting that out there, but it's expensive, and that's why if you can find other vehicles to promote that content, other channels to leverage that content, have the book promote that. Every time you write a blog on that topic, you do a call to action, a push out to the link to, if you want more of this, buy the book. You're on podcast, promote the book, that kind of stuff. But you're also potentially making money, making connections off of the blog posts, the articles, the interviews that promote the book as well. So cross-selling is key.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, writing a book takes a lot of time, right? Takes a lot of your energy. And I know many people who have tried it, and then at the end they're like, they just given up or didn't
Yeah.
have the time. Life kicks in and you got to do something else. So you got to be really passionate about it and really motivated to write a book and bring it to the end.
Yeah. Well, I know that now it has gotten easier where you have people that you, again, if you got the funds for it, that will, I say ghost write for you, but what they do is a lot of it is what they do is they project manage. So they get a lot of the content out of you, but then they make sure that it is formatted, it's print ready, edited, kind of all those things will give you feedback on the content you provide. Like having that as a resource. I did that one time and it was fantastic. That was probably the best of the book writing experiences.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to get your contact on that. I have seen that as well. I would call it the human chat GPT, maybe, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting. I've like I said, I've seen it. I've never used it because I didn't know how I feel about this, right?
Right. Well, that was my thought too. It's like, look, I don't want somebody else. This is going to be my content. It's like,
Yeah.
no, they're editing, but organizing it and formatting it, kind of doing all those things. I'm like, okay, take on that part. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
There's a lot of work formatting. Like I still know that I still screw up all of my formatting or most of my formatting in my book. And I asked my editor, like, do I need to worry about the formatting or anything like that? And he's like, no, don't worry about it. Don't even worry about the spelling checks and all that. We'll take care of all of that.
Right.
So,
but maybe folks don't know this, like Microsoft Word is not the platform that they use to go in and do all of that. So in fact, it was I'm going way back. I think the first one we used was FrameMaker.
Okay.
If that sounds familiar, but it was a specific, like a publishing platform. So it was made for, pulling in, chapters, multiple authors on multiple chapters and then keeping it all organized and then helping build and do the index and the indexes and kind of all that stuff. But yeah, that's another world for sure. Well,
Yeah.
tell me. So, because developer technology is such a broad area, and you've talked about, on the Angular side of things, with Ignite behind us this last fall, and all we're now already looking forward to build this spring. But what have been like for you the most exciting announcements? What are the things that you've been really enjoying or frustrated by? Let's show both sides of. But are in the announcements, like what have you been really focused on that Microsoft has been talking about?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like maybe not fully Microsoft related, but tech related. There's so much buzz going on about AI, right?
I've heard that. I don't know where I heard that, but yeah, I heard AI is hot right now.
yeah. So, and I feel like, I feel like a pressure of jumping into the AI market, like learning more about AI, learning about LLMs, and I don't know, all of those things like ChatGPT 4, 5, 6, or whatnot, And then there's DeepSeek and there's Prosperity. And there's so much going on that it's not really like I feel like a little bit of pressure that maybe I'm falling behind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is certainly sucking up all the oxygen in the room.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cool stuff. Like I keep running into little apps. I've got 2 now that I've been playing with that I just absolutely love for people that blog a lot and think, tools that are out there. If you're interested, I'll tell you offline here, but I'm actually going to do a blog post where I'm talking about some of the tools. And it just constantly evolves and changes, but it's all AI driven. There's just really cool stuff that's coming out. But again, it's the same thing. Like I'm constantly, like if I go out there looking every day, I can find new tools, new solutions, other new recommendations. So it's cutting through all of that noise and figuring out, hey, what actually works, what actually provides, what adds value to what I'm doing today. That's the hard part.
Yeah, what I like the most is, or what helped me a lot is Copilot, right? So that is amazing. I mean, while I'm writing code, it gives me suggestions. right, what to write, or it kind of already knows what I'm going to write. Um, and it even helps me more when I'm writing unit tests, right? So that is actually amazing. So it there is a huge time saver when I'm
Yeah.
writing unit tests. It kind of already knows as I type what I'm going to write and already suggesting all the unit tests one
Yep.
after the other. Um,
It's really good at identifying patterns, seeing what you're doing and saying, oh, I see what you want to have like 5 different scenarios that you can test against. You built the first one. I get it. Here's 4 more.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes, very rare, it doesn't work the way it's expected to, but 99% is pretty accurate and it's a huge time saver. So I
Yeah.
love that about the about those kind of capabilities.
I do too. And that, so it's stuff where I like, so I'm for over 2 years now, been a paid chat GPT, and for doing things that are public, that are open, where I'm, like idea generation, number one, but, to go and create the GPTs, which is like creating an agent. So I don't have to go in and prompt it for those things. Every time I go in there, it's waiting for like that data. I've tried to do more complex where I've kind of like combined agents or GPTs to do it. It didn't quite work. It's not to that point. That's why I'm excited about Copilot and having the multiple agents, and for them to be able to recognize when I'm request extends beyond their ability, but then the future is they'll be able to go and recognize what other uh, uh, agents can do and call on those agents to finish the rest of that.
Mhm.
Like that's exciting to me.
Yeah, that is really cool. I wasn't really aware that it actually can do that, so I need to look into that more.
Yeah,
Um,
the GPTs with Chat GPTs, again, I've been doing that for a while. So
yeah.
I've got my running things that I go and do, and it already knows my list of commands. It knows the output, the format. So all I have to do is put in the raw data, and it spits out exactly what I'm looking for every time.
That's amazing. Another thing that I'm really fascinated or interested about is the SQL database integrations, right? So I have used SQL for quite a bit,
Yeah.
and I'm really curious to see how AI is going to help us with that. So all the Microsoft Fabric, all the data replication, or whatever it's going to do, like optimizing tables or the data. Like I want to see how it's going to do that because I've used SQL for a long time, and SQL on its own is already pretty solid. But you got to be very experienced with that, right?
Well,
So
you're right, because it's like in fact, I was just having a conversation last week with somebody who is a Power Platform expert, and we were talking about that. I said, I've done a number of classes, and when you go through in the scenarios in those classes where the data is a little bit cleaner and simpler, and to be able to go and then create the visualizations off of that, it's like my experience with SQL too. Is like you spend most of your time massaging, refining, cleaning up, and organizing that data. Cut out some things that are not necessary, joining other pieces in,
yeah,
like all
yeah.
the data. Then you go and build the reports. Then you build the dashboards and the visualizations and things that are out there. People don't understand how, because you see somebody who's really good at Power BI, for example, or even Excel, um, how much data manipulation cleanup that they have to do to get to the point where it looks flawless. That's the hard part.
Yeah, I agree 100% on
So
that.
I think AI is going to be able to help with that cleanup process, which could speed up and I think really democratize, BI in general in the broader space.
Yeah, 100%. Another thing, that might not be fully um, related to Ignite, I love how AI can be integrated with web applications, right?
Yep.
So when it comes to like customer service, support, or anything like that, you don't really need like a human anymore sitting behind it, right? So you integrate AI with it, you integrate it with the APIs and everything, give it access to the database. And then if there's a possibility that you already have the integration working of the front end with the back end, with AI enabled, then you get basically the best of the world, right? Best of both, right?
Yeah.
So that is
Let-
an amazing time saver again, and
yeah.
also like the accuracy of the information you get is priceless, right?
Yeah. So my first experience with I would say it's like a chat bot type interface was in 2005. But it was, I mean, there was no intelligence behind it. It was a logic tree of responses. So if you didn't use the right, questions, the right things, like it would come back with non-answers. It was really difficult to go in there and make it, just look like it was, talking back. It was just it was a workflow of responses. But gone through that experience and then looking at the logic and my first chat bot that I built when I was learning, I was amazed at how quickly, like I programmed it for like the input for it was a like a vacation request form that's on my tenant. And I experimented. I didn't program this stuff in. I just, once it was live and I started asking different ways, I just said, I need to get out of here for a while. It understood, like, here's the vacation request, like, or here's what you're looking for, or I need time off, easy. I need to, I need to do something else, outside of work on Thursday. All of these different phrases that, again, I did not program in, that like the the semantic model below it understood the context, what I was talking about, and then went to the next step of, here's a solution for this to get you out of here in approved by your manager, but format. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's awesome. I think that shows, that AI isn't really new, right? It's has been there for a while. It's just that, when ChatGPT came out, it just boomed right away, and
right.
suddenly it was the next big thing, right?
And Microsoft was right there with their investments there, and then you find out they were investing in OpenAI years before that, and had been working on AI things well before those investments as well. So you're right. It's really been around a long time. None of us were looking at it. We weren't focused on it. There was nothing that was consumer ready for it.
Yeah. I remember when I was in school, like in fifth or sixth grade. I had the desire of building a robot. Building a robot and then helping, like making sure it can help with the household, helping my mom and things like that. So and that was what, like 90s, right? And I know, like when you ask ChatGPT or like any other AI platform, like how old is AI? I think it goes way back before that, right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe at least 20, 30 years before that.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how far we have come now.
Yep. Well, and how close we are to getting to like the movies 2001 Space Odyssey, getting to a HAL and be able to have these conversations, and for once the computers become self-aware
Yeah.
and start making decisions and going contrary to rule number one, don't harm humans. They say that it's in the best interest for all of humanity to harm some humans. Like, that'll be a scary moment. But
Yeah.
we're not there yet, folks. We got months, if not a couple years before that.
Yeah, it is scary. I almost don't want to think about this. I think we have to be really careful when we design or build these language models, that we're really careful about, what exactly we're doing, and we don't shoot ourselves in the foot.
So if I'm going to scare everybody, have you seen the show? You're familiar with Black Mirror, the show?
No, I have not.
Oh,
No.
it's kind of like a modern Twilight Zone, so it's like short
Okay.
stories, whatever, and they're a bit darker and very sci-fi. Well, there's one of them which I highly recommend out there. If you go out there and do a search for Black Mirror and do like robot dogs, you'll see
Mhm.
the episode. But it's those those dog robots that you see that are out there, like Boss Electronics and and different companies that have built these things. Think of that militarized. So if those dogs running across the landscape with an AI interface
Yeah.
with guns and knives, It's the stuff nightmares are made of. That, I think, is where things are going. And on that happy note, but no, it's I think that if you think about the where things will go from a military standpoint, I think that's an episode to go and check out, of Black Mirror.
Yeah, but I think there's already something like that, right? Like Boston Robotics.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That it's exactly like the Boston Robotics dog.
Yeah,
but it has guns and knives.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something to go and take a look at. It's frightening, but yeah, anyway, it's all science fiction for now, folks. So yeah, but well, Sonu, I really appreciate your time and getting to catch up. I always ask at the end, if people want to reach out and connect with you, where can they find you? Where are you most social? Like where are you most active out on social?
Yeah, most of the time I am on LinkedIn. So I'll share my LinkedIn with you, and you can maybe add it to the video. But I'm also available on Twitter with the handle Sonu Kapoor 1978. As I share that as well. And over GitHub, you can reach me over GitHub as well.
Excellent. Well, I'll have, of course, all the links out on the blog post out on buckleyplanet.com and out on YouTube as part of this. So you'll be able to find and connect with Sonu. And as I always say, don't be shy. If you're interested in reaching out, connect. MVPs are always happy to hear from people and connect. Yeah. If you say hey, I saw your MVP Buzz Chat interview, wanted to reach out and connect, awesome, do that.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with you. You want to reach out, you want help, you want start contributing, you want to learn more about the MVP process, or how to set up yourself so that you can be nominated. We're here to help you.
Yeah, if you want ideas for where you can focus, or for writing your first blog or creating your first video, reach out. We can definitely provide that feedback. I do that all the time. So, awesome. Well, anyway, Sonu, really great talking to you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good one.